दिव्यै तस्मै महाप्रेमरसप्रदाय चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमस्ते। जय जय श्री चैतन्य जय नित्यानंद। जय द्वैत चंद्र जय गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna everyone. So we are continuing to read from chapter number 20. In Vedic literatures, there is information of a material object called a touchstone, which simply by touch can transform iron into gold. The touchstone can produce an unlimited quantity of gold and yet remains unchanged. Only in the state of ignorance can one accept the Mayavad conclusion that this cosmic manifestation and the living entities are false or illusory. No sane man would attempt to impose ignorance and illusion upon the supreme absolute truth, which is who is absolute in everything. There is no possibility of change, ignorance, or illusion in him. The supreme Brahman, the supreme absolute truth, both are one and the same person. The supreme Brahman, who is the supreme absolute truth, is transcendental, completely different from all the material conceptions and full of inconceivable potencies. The Shvetashvatar Upanishad confirms that the supreme absolute personality of Godhead is full of inconceivable energies and that no one else possesses such energies. It is only by misunderstanding the inconceivable energies of the Supreme that one may conclude that the Supreme Absolute Truth is impersonal. Such a deluded conclusion is experienced by a living being when he is in an acute stage of disease. Somebody who has got cataract in the eyes is unable to see things properly, clearly. They think that everything seems to be black or there's a black spot. So initially when the cataract starts developing, they may feel that, okay, there is a problem in the object, what they are looking at. But as it progresses, they realize that, okay, now they are moving on towards becoming blind. So a person who thinks that the supreme absolute truth is impersonal, has no features, has no qualities, has no form. Supreme absolute truth has a form, but that form is transcendental. The supreme absolute truth has qualities, but those qualities are transcendental. Transcendental means it transcends all the other layers of skies that are there, and it is on the highest sky. There is nothing beyond that. So if somebody thinks like this, that the supreme absolute truth is impersonal, that means they are in an acute stage of disease. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3.33.3, there is a clear statement from the supreme Atma, that is the Lord, has inconceivable and innumerable potencies. It is also stated in Brahma Samhita 5.5 that the Supreme Spirit has many variegated and inconceivable energies. Variegated means different from one another. One energy is different from the other energy is different from the other. So variegatedness. And they are inconceivable. It is beyond our understanding. Not just our, but it is beyond the understanding of even Lord Brahma. What to speak of normal, ordinary jivatmas, mortal jivatmas like us, even beyond Brahma also, Lord Shiva also cannot understand, cannot conceive. And even Lord Vishnu is saying the same thing. Ananta Shesh is also saying the same thing. So, what to speak of ordinary Jivatmas like ourselves? Nor should one think that there is any possibility of ignorance existing in the absolute truth. Ignorance is a mode of the material nature, and the absolute truth is beyond the material nature. So there is no possibility of ignorance to exist in the absolute truth. It is absolute truth. Ignorance and knowledge are conceptions in this world of duality. In this material world, we have conceptions. This is very good. This is auspicious. Oh, don't do this. This is inauspicious. This is ignorance. This is knowledge. We say that, okay, this is dark and this is light. So there is always, if there is, what is darkness? It is simply the absence of light. What is ignorance? It is simply the absence of knowledge. But all these conceptions, this duality, it exists only in this material world. It does not exist in the spiritual world. And whatever qualities exist in the material world are actually qualities coming from the Supreme Spirit, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the difference is that all the qualities that are here are the perverted reflection of the pure qualities that exist in the spiritual world. So if in the material world, if we see that there is arrogance, or there is anger, or there is fight, all those things exist in the spiritual world also, but it is in the pure transcendental form, in the spiritual form. So all those qualities are there. Sometimes in the material world, being jealous is not a good quality in the material world, but in the spiritual world, there is spiritual jealousy, and it is pure form of jealousy. And it is very sweet. It is nectarian. It is not dangerous like the jealousy that exists in the material world. So these conceptions of duality are existing only in this material world. But in the absolute, there cannot be any ignorance. It is simply foolishness to consider that the absolute is covered by ignorance. If the absolute truth can be covered by ignorance, how could it be said to be absolute? Then it is not absolute truth. Then it is relative truth. Relative means in reference to something, in relation to something. Understanding the inconceivable energies of the absolute is the only solution to the question of duality. This is because duality arises from the inconceivable energies of the absolute. So absolute truth is as it is. There is no change. But there are inconceivable energies that are emanating from this absolute truth, and in those energies, this concept of duality is arising. By his inconceivable energies, the supreme absolute truth can remain unchanged and yet produce this cosmic manifestation with all its living entities, just as a touchstone can produce unlimited quantities of gold and yet remain unchanged. Because the absolute truth has such inconceivable energies, inconceivable means something that you cannot imagine, beyond imagination, unthinkable. Because the absolute truth has such inconceivable energies, the material quality of ignorance cannot pertain to him. The true variegatedness which exists in the absolute truth is a product of his own inconceivable energies. Indeed, it can be safely concluded. Now Mahaprabhu is saying, now indeed it can be safely concluded, that without a doubt it can be concluded, with stamp marked, that this cosmic manifestation is just a byproduct of the supreme absolute truth's inconceivable energy. So out of the many inconceivable energies of the absolute truth, this material cosmic manifestation, this cosmic manifestation is just a byproduct of what? Of his own inconceivable energies. Byproduct of his energy. Once we accept the inconceivable energies of the Supreme Lord, we will find that there is no duality at all. The expansion of the energies of the Supreme Lord is as true as the Supreme Lord himself. The expansion of the energies of the Supreme Lord is as true as the Supreme Lord himself. Why Mahaprabhu is saying this statement? Because these Mayavadis, now we have to understand one thing also, that Mayavadis does not mean that just those people in Benares. These days also there are so many different upper sampradaya. They are all Mayavadis. They are upper sampradayas and they are all Mayavadis actually. Everybody will come there with their own misconceptions and false philosophies, made up philosophies, man-made philosophies. So they are all Mayavadis. So why it is said here? Because the Mayavadis, they say that this Jagat is mithya. This Jagat is not mithya. That is what it is trying to say, that Supreme Lord is true, and so the expansion, whatever is emanated from the Supreme Lord, these energies and the expansion of these energies of the Supreme Lord, they are also true. This Jagat is not mithya. This very much existing. But everything that is here is relative truth. And everything that is here is, we have to understand that it is all conditioned. It is all covered by ignorance. But despite all the variegated manifestations of the Supreme Lord's energies, there is no question of transformation for the Supreme Lord himself. Once again, the example of the touchstone can be cited. In spite of producing unlimited quantities of gold, the touchstone remains the same. We therefore hear some sages say that the Supreme is the ingredient cause of this cosmic manifestation. In Brahma Samhita, we hear that Krishna is Sarva Karana Karanam, and according to some sages, they say that he is the ingredient cause, he is the main ingredient behind the cause of this cosmic manifestation. He is not directly connected with the cosmic manifestation. When he glances at the 14, the Mahat Tattva, 24 Mahat Tattva, that's when the material nature comes into form, or is injected with the life forms, and then it starts its creation activities by itself. So the Supreme Lord is the ingredient cause of this cosmic manifestation. Also, the example of the rope and the snake is not irregular. When we accept a rope to be a snake, it is to be understood that we have experienced a snake previously. Yeah, so okay. Before this, we were using this example as snake is understood to be a rope. But here, the opposite is explained, that when somebody accepts that, oh, it's not a rope, it's a snake, don't touch, don't touch. Sometimes it happens, right? Somebody sees a rope and thinks that it's a snake, don't go nearby. What does that imply? That means this person has surely seen a snake previously. Otherwise, how will that, without that experience of a snake previously, how would that person have this kind of a feeling? It's not possible. So that is what here Mahaprabhu is explaining, that when we accept a rope to be a snake, it is to be understood that we have experienced a snake previously. Otherwise, how can the rope be mistaken for a snake? Thus, the conception of a snake is not untrue or unreal in itself. What is Srila Prabhupada trying to explain here? That means the snake does exist. Is the snake an illusion that, oh, it does not exist? Somebody is mad, don't go near the snake, but there is no such thing as snake. This is what Prabhupada is trying to explain here. That the conception of snake is not untrue or unreal in itself. It is simply false identification that is untrue or unreal. Illusion. Instead of the rope, we think it to be a snake. So there is illusion, but it is not false. Snake does exist, but that rope is not snake. Are we able to understand how Mahaprabhu is bringing us this clarity in this entire explanation, that when the Mayavadis, they say that, oh, all this is mithya, more Maya, but they don't understand the actual uh, the, the essence of all of these things, and they try to give their own misconceived ideas and concocted ideas. So we should have certain points in our mind so that we are clear, not just for the sake of reading, but we should understand. It is not about by hearting something, but it is about understanding. Because if we understand it well, if we make proper notes, and if we think about it, Smarana, we have to think about what we are reading and what is the essence of all these things. Because anytime we may be faced by such persons, even if we are unable to, um, speak with references to scriptures, it's okay if we cannot speak with references to scriptures. It is even okay if we do not win with them, because the purpose is not to win uh, in a debate with somebody. The purpose is that we should be protected. We should not be fools that tomorrow four persons come and they give us this amazing um, theory, concocted theory, and our brain is completely washed out of all the good things that we have collected with so much pain. Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain all these things with so much pain, but in one go it is all washed off, because we are not doing any smaranam, because we are not trying to get the juice out of it. So it is most important is our own protection. And then if we are able to remember these points, then why not? Then why not? Then you should definitely go out and tell them. But we should not waste our time, because people who are not interested in spiritual activities, they don't care whether you are right or wrong, because they have no purpose in their own life. They are purposeless, they are directionless, and they don't mind wasting their millions of hours until their last moment of the death arguing and debating in all these things, either face to face, or they will start debating on online forums. I have seen so many people debate after debate, okay, hours. They will just type, oh, this person said so, okay, they are typing and they give their explanation, and then again the other party, they have never seen each other face to face, some random post, and people will comment and debate on forums, online platforms. So they have all the time. But we should be careful that our time is precious, because we have understood, or at least I'm hoping that we have understood, that death can come at any moment. And our purpose is that at the time of death, we should be able to think of Krishna and not some random Tom, Dick, Harry. Therefore, we should be very careful that we don't waste our time. We are not responsible for actually, we are not responsible for anybody coming into Krishna consciousness, because we are not the doer. We are nothing. We are nothing at all. It is all by Krishna's causeless mercy. He may use us as an instrument in order to bring somebody in Krishna consciousness, or he may use as an instrument in order to inspire somebody in Krishna consciousness. We are actually nothing. But our purpose should be that we should become instruments, and therefore we should work on ourselves so that we can become good devotees. And to become a good devotee, what are the ingredients required? We should think about those things, and we should work on those aspects. Because if I become a qualified disciple of my spiritual master, then Krishna and Guru will be able to use a useless person like me as an instrument in order to give me some causeless mercy. So we should, for that, all this is very, very important. Everything, everything that is being discussed here is very important, because when we think about it, when we do smaranam, Smaranam means what? Reflecting on what I have read, what I heard. When we reflect on what we have heard, and am I applying it? Again and again, it is being said, taking guidance, taking guidance, taking guidance. Am I really doing it? Again and again, it is said that we should become a qualified disciple. How to become a qualified disciple? Am I becoming a qualified disciple? Am I on the right path, or am I just doing something and thinking that no, I have already become a qualified disciple? Again and again, we should question ourselves, and we should check where is our standing, where are we standing at? Are we properly placed in the right direction? So, thus the conception of a snake is not untrue or unreal in itself. It is the false identification that is untrue or unreal. When by mistake we consider the rope to be a snake, that is our ignorance. But the very idea of a snake is not in itself ignorance. Similarly, when we accept a mirage in the desert to be water, there is no question of water being a false concept. Water is a fact, but it is a mistake to think that there is water in the desert. What to speak of desert? I've been brought up in Gujarat, so this is a very common thing. Since my childhood, I've seen this mirage, and every time we would drive from our hometown to the nearest city, every time in the heat, it would I would see that okay, there's so much water on the surface of the road right in front. But as soon as we just come close and we cross that place, I see there's no water. So since childhood, I was thinking, "Arey, there's so much water, there's so much water. Maybe some rainfall happened, maybe there was some rain, but how dry it is in the other places. Oh, as soon as you cross that place, there's no water. That does that mean that um, there is no concept of water? No, water is a fact. Water exists, but what I am seeing is defective. There is defect in my seeing. Therefore, I am having a false concept that in that place there is water. In that place there is no water, but water actually exists. This is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to explain here. That the material world, Mahaprabhu is explaining here that the material world is very much existing. But whatever we are seeing, whatever we are understanding, whatever is happening here, all that is covered by ignorance and defect, and therefore everything that is happening is illusory. There's a very beautiful video, um, one of the devotees shared in our group of Narad Muni. So Narad Muni once goes to Lord Vishnu and says that, oh, this, mm, uh, he very proudly says that this Maya is just, is temporary. Uh, And then Lord Vishnu, he just smiles. He says nothing. He smiles and he says, Narad, can you please get me some water? So Narad Muni goes to the nearest pond to fetch water for Vishnu. And just imagine, who are we talking about? We are not talking about ourselves. We are talking of Sri Narad Muni, who is constantly chanting the holy names of the Lord, who has got a special visa that he can go to any planet he wants. He can go to any palace of Krishna. There is no privacy also. Krishna also has no privacy. Lord Vishnu also has no privacy from this Sri Narad Muni. Okay. Narad Muni is like that. That Narad Muni, who is always singing. What is he singing? Narada Muni bajaye bina Radhika Ramana Name. He's constantly singing the names of Srimati Radharani on his veena. That's Narad Muni. So Narad Muni goes to the pond to fetch water, and there, now Narad Muni is a brahmachari. And there he goes and he sees a beautiful woman, and Narad Muni just gets so attracted by this woman that he completely forgets the purpose that he had come for, fetching water for whom? Lord Vishnu, his Pranath. And he forgets about Lord Vishnu also. And then he goes to this lady, they start speaking, they like each other, they plan to get married, they get married, and then year after year they have many kids, and they're very nicely settled happily. Narad Muni is taking care of his wife and his children, and then suddenly one fine day there is a devastating rain, and everything is got flooded. And then in that flood, Narad Muni's very house, his family, his wife, all his children, everything that he had prepared, he had made so nicely, he sees that everything has got drowned. And then Narad Muni sits and he's banging his forehead that I've lost everything, I've lost everything, everything is finished. He has no remembrance of Vishnu. Forget about Vishnu. He's crying for his wife and children, which he was in the first place never supposed to have. And then suddenly, when he's crying like that, when he's lamenting like that, suddenly a tap comes on his shoulder. He's sitting on that flooded road in between, in the center of water. He's sitting there and he's crying like a mad person. Just imagine ourselves, if this had to happen to ourselves, what would have been our condition? Exactly same condition Narad Muni was going through. And suddenly there's a tap on his back. And Narad Muni looks and Lord Vishnu says, I asked you to get some water. And Narad Muni looks around and he sees he's sitting in front of that pond. So many years have passed, but actually nothing has passed. He's in that moment sitting. That is how powerful Maya is. Krishna says, no, that it is impossible to cross over this Maya. But if somebody takes my shelter, Mama, then it is very easy to cross over that, this nations of Maya, this material world. So that is the power of Maya, but it is not false. It is very much true. Therefore, we should be always scared of Maya. And every moment we should pray to Krishna that Krishna, you have only said that it is impossible to cross your Maya and come to you. Only you can actually protect us from your Maya, because you are in control of your Maya. Therefore, I am seeking your protection, Krishna. Every moment I'm seeking your protection, because I am very weak. I am very weak, and every moment I am in Maya only. No matter what I'm doing, no matter how much devotional service I do and everything, every moment I am in Maya. Only sometimes I may be in Krishna consciousness for a second or maybe for a fraction of second. But the very thought that comes in mind that, okay, now we are in Krishna consciousness, that means we are in deep Maya. In deep Maya. If we have this thought that now I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, guaranteed we are in deep Maya. So we should, just like Narad Muni, he had forgotten about Vishnu and he was crying for his wife and children. So we'll pause here for today, and Krishna willing, we'll continue reading tomorrow. Thank you very much for a very, very kind and wonderful association and tolerating me every day. Panchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री श्रीमद शिला जय पताका स्वामी गुरु महाराज की जय।
जय
जगत गुरु श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय।
जय
गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि
हरि हरि बोल श्री श्यामा करुणामयी माता जी की जय
गौरांग कुटी भक्त वृंद की जय।
जय
Glory to
जय
Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.